Selena, and welcome back to my channel. And for those of you that didn't get to see my first video, please go and check it out, like and subscribe because your girl's trying to get monetized. I got kids, y'all, I got family to feed, so help a sister out and go subscribe and watch my videos. I understand if you don't got 30 minutes, that first video, your first one, you're figuring it out. Cook dinner, girl, let it play in the black background. Help me out, girl. I appreciate it. So anyway, this is part two to that video. And I kind of rambled the first video because if I'm honest with you, I was really struggling with how I wanted to put this information out. And saying all that to say, when I was pregnant my first time, you already have fears and anxieties. You don't know what to expect. You're worried. And I had so many women come and put their horror stories on me. And it messed me up. That was what was in the back of my head when I went to the hospital. So it was easy for the doctors to manipulate me to get epidural right away, induced the day I turned 40 weeks. And I just had fear because I ate their words. So my intention with this video is for you first time moms, I want to be honest, but I don't want to scare you. But I do want to be honest that there's some sides to pregnancy that's just not so glamorous. And I want you to be prepared. So I wish I was prepared, and I wasn't. And even just relationships and your mates and with the healing process, it's not something that women talked about. Or even postpartum, which I had the first go. And I wish I had somebody who was honest with me. So my intention with my birth story with River is to be honest about how it really was. It's not to put fear in you. I just want you to take the information and prepare yourself. And I got a lot of good jewels to give, but there are some things that I don't want to turn off first time moms or for those moms that were like myself. You had a C-section of first go. So the second pregnancy, if you have a VBAC, is your first time feeling it. So I just want you to know what to expect. And I'm currently pregnant again. Yes, I got pregnant again. I had my daughter last year. She's not even one, and I'm pregnant again. So I want to prep you guys for that. Take the pill. If you're nursing, the only thing they're going to give you is the mini pill. Take it the same day at the same time, or you're going to be back pregnant like me. And it's a blessing, but I just want to prepare you guys. So here I go. I have a lot of anxiety about putting this out. I'm being very vulnerable. Um, and, in my culture, we're supposed to be strong. So some of the stuff I'm sharing, it makes me feel weak. And to put that out there is huge for me. So I'm going to do it in hopes that I help someone. So this is part two of my raw, uncut video, 10 Days Overdue, River story. My daughter's name is River. I just wanted to start with family members. They all sucked. They were freaking awful the first pregnancy, and they were awful the second pregnancy. They were selfish. My mother was very selfish and competitive, and I had a lot of my family members wanting me to make the pregnancy about them and comforting them. The grandmas were competing over who I was around more, and it was just awful. I always felt in the middle, so there was that stress. Your body is changing. Your belly's getting bigger. Um, you're just not loving how you feel. I was very confident. I just loved being in my little outfits and being cute, and I just see my stomach getting bigger and bigger, and yes, I know it's pregnancy. Yes, you're supposed to expect it, but that does not change that you mourn the loss of your pre-baby body. There was that. Secondly, there's discomfort. Um, for some women, you eat a lot. I didn't really go through eating a lot. I struggled with eating. Um, so that was an issue. Vomiting. I had really, really bad nausea. And it wasn't just the first trimester. I had it every trimester. It sucked. I just didn't even want to eat. I had heartburn so bad. I got towards the end of the pregnancy and I was freaking miserable. And with both births, sleeping was a task. I could not lay flat. I just felt like I was suffocating and it was uncomfortable. I would have to sleep both pregnancies in a rocking chair or on the couch. Um, and the closer you get to the due date, fear kicks up. You start thinking about the pain. You start thinking about, what do I have to go through? Am I ready? And there's no backseats, not on this. And you don't really quite feel prepared. And you don't necessarily have the people around you are prepared because my mother birthed six, and she just kept putting, oh, you'll be fine. I birthed six. She'll get a lot of that. Oh, I had three. You'll be fine. Oh, get over it. You're being a baby. Women, millions of women go through this, and your mates will be unconsciously insensitive and say things to you. Um, they'll say things like, "Well, didn't you know pregnancy was going to be uncomfortable?" All while they're not uncomfortable. So it's just a lot you're going through with the people around you. So mentally, and you're emotional. I cried off of a cartoon called The Good Dinosaur. I boo-hooed and cried when the daddy dinosaur died. And I'm not really a crier. So you're not going to recognize yourself, and that is okay. Um, give yourself permission to labor and go through your pregnancy how you go through it, not how your mama went through it, not how your sister went through it, or your friend that birthed seven, because every woman is different and everybody's body is different. And some women with pregnancy, your trauma comes out. So I had to fight a lot of trauma to have this successful feedback. And that's what I want to touch on. Birthing is, yes, it's physically demanding, but a lot of it is mental. So for me, trauma came out. And for those around me, their trauma came out and they dumped it on me. And that made it really, really hard. And for me, I'm an empath and I don't know how to say no, and it overwhelmed me. And I believe that also attributed a lot to why I had to get a C-section the first time. This go, I had my power back and I spoke up a lot more. But it was a repeat. And, your support team plays a big role. And my advice to you, if you have anyone that's emotionally and mentally draining you, detach yourself until you have this baby. So for me, I knew I had to do mental work. That C-section was very, very traumatic for me. I was determined not to have a repeat. And for those women that you opt to get a C-section, that is perfectly fine, but the healing process was brutal. With River, I was determined to have a VBAC. But I had to do the mental work. I literally started, I'd say about 3 weeks after I found out I was pregnant, I went into research mode and I started conditioning my mind. That's what worked for me. So I had to get C-section out of my vocabulary and I focused on the result I wanted. So when discomfort came up and that old emotion of anxiety and fear would pop up with it, I would have to replace it with a positive thought. So I did that a lot. So I used Bridget Taylor. I go on YouTube, I play her videos, and she would just teach you breathing techniques. She has a wealth of information that I followed. She doesn't have a lot, there's not a lot of people I found doing hypno, but that worked for me. And I would she would teach you how to breathe. She preps you for the transition phase, which is the hardest phase, which is about 5 to 7 centimeters. And I just held on to her videos. Another one that I held on to dearly was Sacred Birth Doula. I know her first name is Maria. Her last name starts with a G, but I don't know how to pronounce it. I paid her on PayPal, so I see the name, but I don't remember it. But her page is called Sacred Birth Doula. I follow her on Instagram. Oh my God, she is a lifesaver. I ordered her rights over birth package, and that made the doctors fall back quite a bit. In addition to me saying no, declining the C-section twice. And even declining the C-section, a part of you feels like you can't go up against a doctor. But I decided to trust my body, and I said no. Because for me, I know that it's also a business. The hospital's a business, and that's my personal opinion. So you're not always in for women of color. C-sections are pushed up on them a lot more. So you really have to speak up and say no. And that's a fact. You can research that. So I wasn't going to let them force that on me. So no. And it was uncomfortable. Then I would have to go see that doctor. Towards the end, you got to go once a month, once a week, and seeing her every week and seeing how she was acting differently and uncomfortable towards me. Yeah, that was awkward. But my birth is going to go how I want it to go, not how a doctor told me. And I had to make my mind up. And there was a couple times they had me crying and I was unsure, and they put all the stops. Oh, you could break your pelvis. Your daughter could be too big. They told me the placenta could stop giving her nourishment. Oh, hold up. You're not gonna put that fear in me like those other women did with their stories. My first pregnancy, I stopped it. No, that's not gonna happen. Sorry, everybody. For some odd reason, my video cut out and I couldn't get the. And this is my river, so she's got a lot to say too. So for some reason, the video cut out and I'm starting it again. But I said no. I wouldn't let them bully me into that C-section, and I fought for that. And it's okay to say no. And like I mentioned, it's you get feel like you can't tell the doctors no, and you can. They do a generalization. That doesn't mean it's applicable to you. You're unique. Go ahead, baby. You gonna get it out for your chest. She feels some type of way too, because your day was pregnant, made stressing me, which stressed her. So all I would tell you women is speak up for yourself, push for the birth you want, but do know that there is going to be discomfort. Um, but it's doable and it lasts one day. Well, the 9 months you carry, but then the one day, once that baby's out, the pain stops. So for me, I had to cut off family members that were competing and making it about them and trying to make my birth story about them. The grandmas competing for attention, and it was a mess. And then my husband was triggered. He didn't do well with me being in pain, and he would just how he took it. And he's gonna do his videos. He's gonna tell the male side of how it was because there's two sides to every story. But from my perspective, he checked out, and so I felt alone, and I went to my sister, who knows what to do, and that's perfectly fine. Sometimes the men don't know what to do, but he showed up and showed out when we were in the hospital. And when it comes to our daughter and being up at night and changing diapers, amazing. But while I was pregnant, he didn't have it, and so there was that. So I I just want to let you guys know that it's don't take it personally if your mate checks out, because then their stage, everybody got a stage they're good at. Their stage might be once the baby's here. Um, but I had to really do mental conditioning. I did hypnotherapy. I watched positive stuff. I wouldn't let negativity in. When women started to try to tell their horror stories, if they start off with, girl, I don't want to scare you, but, oh, don't even go beyond the but. You don't need that in your subconscious. And for me, trauma came up. I didn't have a very good, which I will tell my birthing story with my son Roger, but it wasn't a good experience for me with his father. So I just had to really fight through that, but I was determined, and it's a mental thing. I pulled on my sister, who would help me just stay focused. My hips was popping out of place. That's no fun, because I carried my daughter so low. This baby I'm carrying high, so I don't have a lot of pain and discomfort. But with River, I carried her really low. Walking was a task. Oh, it was painful. I couldn't sleep at night. A couple times I threw up in my sleep and couldn't breathe. And I remember I couldn't even call out to my husband because I had vomit in my throat. And I panicked. But he heard me hit the wall, and when he came in, he helped me get it up. And it was scary. It was scary. I had weird things happen that pregnancy. And I was terrified. I had anxiety. I had sleepless nights. I got bullet points, y'all, so I could stay on point this go. I had heartburn and I was irritated with my mate. I felt like I wanted to rip his head off. And that's what came up with me. And be okay with labor with how you need a labor, but I just want to let you know that there's this side to pregnancy women don't talk about. My lips spread. I already got full lips. You can see them spreading, and my nose spread. And I had to be okay with my body changing, my look changing. My arms got a little extra jiggle to it, and you have to be okay with that. And yes, you're pregnant, and people try to tell you you should expect it, but it doesn't change how you feel, and be okay with that. And being sensitive, I was extra sensitive. And then there's times with my daughter I went through being real needy. I wanted more attention from my husband, which he freely gave. He loves to do it. But I just remember thinking, oh God, I'm one of those. And that's okay too. And so for me, during the pregnancy, what I will do a video on all the things I use to give myself comfort. Um, I bought the Cozy Bump, where it's this big blow up bed with the pillow out. I'll do my reviews on these products on the following video. And any little thing to give me some comfort worked. Towards the end, you're done. All I could think about was get this baby out of me, or I'm going to get this baby out. Um, I did everything. I walked. I did the curb walking. I did midwives brews. And River came out when River wanted to come out. She's Miss Virgo and she does what she wants to do. So you can't rush your body and your baby, and you can't let people get in your head. Um, I trusted myself. I went with it. And yeah, you're gonna go in the hospital and see that doctor that you stood up to and said no, and they're gonna feel some ways because you called them out, and be okay with that. And then when I got to the hospital, the anxiety and the fear came up. I'm not gonna sell it to you like it didn't. I was scared, and I pushed past it. I got my videos going. I played music. I did whatever I needed to do to get back refocused. And those feelings aren't gonna go away. It's what you do with the feelings. It's what's gonna matter. The fear, the anxiety. I'm not here to tell you that it just goes away. I didn't completely dissipate it. What I'm saying is I got it under control. Either you control it or it controls you, and I was tired of being at its control. And so I made up my mind that I was having a VBAC. And like I mentioned, the epidural worked on one half of my body, on the other half it didn't. And after the epidural, I had trouble breathing with both pregnancies. Once again, I'm not trying to scare anyone, but for me, I had a reaction to the epidural, and my tongue was swelling up, and I couldn't breathe well. And the nurses were saying I was having an anxiety attack. I was not having an anxiety attack. And then that particular doctor ripped my placenta out and caused me to hemorrhage. So you really have to be very careful. Everything else went smoothly. I didn't need an episiotomy. My daughter was 8 pounds 7 ounces. I pushed all of that out, and I didn't need not one stitch. So I'm here to tell you that you can do it. She was not a small baby. I will insert pictures below, and she came out perfectly fine. When I didn't let them do medical intervention and just let my body go naturally, she didn't have the complications my son had when they cut him out early. My son had jaundice. He had to be put in a little machine. I'll go into more detail about that. But he just had complications he shouldn't have had if they would have left me be. So just like your mama bear for the babies when they're out, be mama bear for them in the womb. You're their protector. And that's what I held on to. So when I would struggle to say no, that's what I thought about. I'm sticking up for my child. And that worked for me. It brought out mama bear times 10. And I pulled on that. So pull on your strengths. I'm not telling you to take this time and develop things you don't have. What I'm saying is push through and pull on what you got. And when that baby's out, the pain stops. You're sore, but the pain stops. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. But don't go into this like black like hole and just suffer through. And then when the baby's out, you're like, oh my God, that was awful. Don't put that in your head. Breathe through it. Take your time. Each contraction is getting you closer to your baby. And so that's what I told myself. You got to talk to yourself. Your inner talk determines your end result. So you have positive talk with yourself. Feed yourself positivity. And that's what's going to come out when you get in that delivery room. And yes, you know, the nausea and the pain. And yeah, you're stretching. Your body's stretching and opening up to let a whole baby out. It's not going to tickle, but at the same time, it's doable. And like I said, I was 8 centimeters when I went in and didn't even know it. So that lets you know that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I thought I was going to be dying. I'm thinking of the movies when they're screaming and they're crying. And it was definitely uncomfortable, but it wasn't as bad as I thought either. So, yes, the heartburn, all of that is part of the pregnancy. And I've heard of women, their feet spreaded. They got diabetes. Women's got preeclampsia. I didn't get none of that. I was very grateful. In this go, I'm doing very well as well. So it's my mentality. So you will be fine, and just allow your body to stretch. I did a lot of squatting when the contractions came. I was on all fours. I believe that helped me not needing stitches, and I tried my best not to tense up. Now the 5 to 7 centimeters, that was the worst. You'll see the pictures below. That's when I was laying on the ball, and you could tell I was crying. I took my lace front off, my clothes was off, I was butt naked. Oh, it got real. And 12 hours before I even went in. And you will know when you're in labor. I remember with the Braxton Hicks, I went in twice, and I was 1 centimeter dilated. And I'm like, this has to be the real deal because the Braxton Hicks they sure don't tickle, sweetie. And I wasn't in labor, it was in active labor. But when the active labor comes, you'll know. I lost my mucus plug, and the night before I walked. I walked miles. I went up hills. I went to a park. Um, I walked miles. Then that morning, my mucus plug came out, and I went into labor a few hours later. And for those of you that don't know what a mucus plug looks like, I will insert a picture below, just for to have reference. And um, then the contractions started slowly, and they went gradual and gradual and gradual, and they got closer together. I knew I was in labor. It felt different, and I knew. But oddly, it was only a little bit stronger than the Braxton Hicks. So having Braxton Hicks for 3 weeks prior to going into labor really conditioned and helped me for active labor because it wasn't as bad as I thought. Because I had Braxton Hicks for so many weeks in false labor. Um, so I just wanted to share that with you guys. Um, I will show you the pictures of me in the hospital, River in the hospital when she came out. She wasn't a small baby. Remind you, not one stitch. I didn't need an episiotomy. Um, the only complication I had was because of the doctor pulled my placenta out. She was too impatient to let my body birth it because it didn't come out when my daughter came out. And when she ripped it out, I hemorrhaged. Other than that, that was really my only complication. Aside from the epidural, I had a little difficulty breathing, but I wasn't. I can't really say if that was because of the placenta being ripped out, and then I was hemorrhaging, and it was as a result of that. Um, but those were the only issues I had. But those were at the hands of the doctor, not anything I did or my body did. So speak up for yourself. I'll put the link below. Go to Sacred Birth Doula. Get her rights over birth package. Once you get that thing notarized and send it to them doctors, baby, they gonna have a different lingo. They gonna be asking your permission instead of telling you and making you think you don't have no say. And Bridget Taylor, she was amazing. And I'm sure there's a whole list of other people out there that I didn't get a chance to research and listen to their material, but those are the ones I found for River. I'm going to do more research this go. I'm starting to have a little bit of pregnancy stuff, but I went this whole 17 weeks and really didn't feel nothing. So that's a good thing. But anyway, you guys feel free to subscribe below.
All good?
My baby. Yep, she's on her way out. So, what are you doing, little mama? River.
Doesn't have a motor, right?
Yeah. Lord. I'm gonna go sleep. On my damn self.
Mama Rachel, these two. I just feel like I was the surrogate because she want her daddy. And he will not leave her side. This is literally him. While she sleep, she can't do nothing without him popping up, checking on her.
Don't lie to my mama. You make my mama really believe it.
No, I swear to you, I will. Well, put my hand on the Bible. Look at this.
Don't lie to my mama like that.
It's the cutest thing, and she has to sleep on his neck. If she's not smelling him, she start crying.
That reminds me, I'm gonna get a big shirt later when we get home and wrap it up.
That's a good idea.
Wrap her in it.
I absolutely love they bond.